Hi, thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be talking about Mercury Retrograde. I'm not going to be giving specific dates because I don't know when you're going to be watching this video. However, if you're watching it in January 2020, you are welcome to hop into my Facebook group and I will have the dates and everything in there. So basically, what I want to go over is what it means for Mercury to be retrograde and how that can affect you. My name is Yeli. I am the CEO of Serenity by Yeli. I am a Reiki master and I'm here to help you live your intentions. So a little bit of background. When I was 14 years old, no, 14, I'm sorry. It was not 14. I think I was like 22 years old. When I was 22 years old, or around that somewhere, I studied astrology. Astrology is a very complex thing because there's a lot that goes on to why things are happening the way they are and how these things are affecting us right now, because you are born, and when you are born, each planet is in a certain place. Those extrapolate to houses. The houses are the ones that each house represents an area of your life. Like house 1 is the person, then you have communications, relationships with others, and you know, you have the houses, and you also have the signs, and each sign is different, and you know, it's all like represented in a wheel that goes 360 degrees around. And the day you're born is kind of taking a snapshot of where each planet was and what the relationships between them were and in which house and sign they were. And whatever happens today, you take the other snapshot, do extrapolate both charts, and then you see what the relationships of your original ones and the current ones are. And that's how you can really kind of tell people what's going on astrologically. So just so you know, it's not that, oh, Pisces are going to find their true love today. Nope, it doesn't work that way. And that may be true for a Pisces, but it also may be true for somebody else, because it doesn't depend on the fact that you're a Pisces. It depends on the fact that your moon is in Taurus, and today the moon is in Taurus. You know, so it might not really have anything to do with Pisces whenever they say something like that in the horoscope. So I don't really believe in them. However, it is not for me to say that what they're saying is not right. I'm just saying that the way I studied astrology, I was told that that is not the case. So all the planets in that 360 degree wheel, you also have the 12 signs, and they each have an equal amount slotted in that wheel. So just divide 360 by 12 and you'll get how many degrees each planet has. So some planets rotate very slowly around, like Saturn takes 7 years to go full circle. Mercury, like the moon, I'm sorry, the moon is one of the ones that goes faster, because it just, I mean, I'm not an astronomer, so it has to do with the orbits and how they go and how they relate to Earth and all that stuff. So all planets, or if not all, most of them at some point, they go forward, you know, clockwise around that wheel, but sometimes they go back a little bit and then they continue going forward again. So when Mercury is retrograde, it just means that Mercury was going forward and then it stops, and then it goes backwards for a little bit, and then it comes back to going forward again. So at some point it'll go forward, backwards in that little same slot. It's like when you trace two lines with a pencil. So you're going back and then you're going forward again. So it's going to go over a single slot of that 360 degrees wheel. It's going to go over a bit of that, quite possibly 3 times, when it went forward first, when it went backwards, and then when it went forward again. Usually, Mercury is the planet that's the regent of, Mercury is the regent planet for communication. So usually what it means when Mercury is retrograde, that it's affecting the way that we communicate with other people. So this is a big deal. And this is, I'm assuming that this is why it's one of the ones that is most important and most noted when it's retrograde. However, it's not the only one, and all the other planets affect us in a certain way when they are retrograde as well. And depending on your natal chart, which is that snapshot taken of how the planets and how they relate to each other were with whether you were born, depending on which sign Mercury is going retrograde or forward on, it'll mean something different for you, because it'll depend on the sign. It'll depend on the house that it's currently in, and the house and the sign that you had it when you were born. So it's very complicated, but in general, it does affect communication, oral and written. So that is why a lot of people say, well, don't do any legal stuff, don't sign any contracts, because all those are communication, right? All those are forms of communication. The other thing you want to keep in mind is that it affects your perception as well, because it's not only affecting what's coming out verbally or written, it's also affecting how people perceive and read or listen to what is being said in a written form or in an auditive form. So it affects your intuition as well. It kind of throws it a little bit off guard, so you're not quite sure if what you are feeling or thinking is intuition, desired, or what. So I always recommend for people to enhance their meditation, like just add an extra meditation in there. If you meditate once a week, try to meditate more frequently. Improvement, right? Because if you're a person that meditates every single day, well, add an extra meditation either daily or every now and then. Whatever you do is better than nothing. So sometimes if I try to be perfect and just say, I'm going to meditate every single day when Mercury is retrograde, yeah, that's the intention, if that's the idea, but I might not just fully be able to manage to do it, which is fine. That's fine too. But the more I do, the better that I'm going to be while Mercury is in retrograde, because the other thing that it affects is your connection to your higher self, like your spiritual connection. So if you're meditating more, then you are also giving it like a little boost. You're strengthening that connection. So whatever is affected, the consequences, like whatever you feel, is less, because you've enhanced it and you've strengthened it by doing more meditations. So usually people tell you don't do any legal stuff, insurance, be sure everything in your insurance is up to date and it's fine when this happens, because again, miscommunication, it's prone to have you're prone to have issues with insurance related things. And of course, the other thing it affects is our security. Why our security? Well, if you really don't know what you're listening to, and you really don't know what you're saying to others and how they are interpreting that creates an off balance. And when we're off balance, we don't feel secure. So this is also something that Mercury retrograde is going to affect. However, the good news is that there are things you can do. You can make sure that when you talk to people, you double ask if they understood what you were trying to say. When they talk to you, you can also ask, is this what I understood? You're not going to do that for every single conversation, because it's going to get pretty boring very fast. But for the important things, you might just want to double check. Also, when sending something in writing, just make sure that the person on the other side understood what it is that you were writing. That's a little bit harder, but you just train yourself to work this way. And why am I saying that you need to train yourself? Because Mercury retrograde happens a few times each year. I haven't made the full math, so please don't hold me to this. But at least this year, I think it's going to be 3 times a year that it's going to go retrograde. But depending on where the year ends and when was the last time it was retrograde, it could even happen more. It could even happen like 4 times a year or more. So just keep that in mind, that this is something that you have to be aware of. It's not that you're going to die about it. Just, double your guard. It's like if you're going to a neighborhood that's not safe, you're more aware of what's going on. It's part of life, right? So that's what you have to learn, how to live with Mercury being retrograde as well. Here's another thing. However long Mercury retrograde lasts, there is a pre-shadow and a post-shadow. So depending on how your natal chart was and the things that are happening today and the planets and all that I've talked about before, that's very, very complicated and that I didn't even fully completely learn, but I know it exists. Depending on how all that relates to Mercury being retrograde, the pre-shadow and the post-shadow might or might not affect you. And there are parts of the pre and post-shadow that are kind of affecting everybody, but other of the days might or might not affect you depending on where Mercury is going retrograde and how a snapshot of the planets are in a particular time. So let me see, what else? What other things can you do when Mercury goes retrograde? I'll tell you what I do. I add meditations to my routine. I try to make sure that I understand what people are telling me and that people understood what it is that I was telling them when it's something important that I want to make sure is clear. I also carry my Mercury retrograde jewelry, and if you're interested in that, there's not a link of to my shop because YouTube won't allow me to put that link on, but you can always go to my Facebook group or my Facebook page and you can get a link from there, or subscribe to my VIP list and you can also get a link from there. So I have a series of Mercury retrograde jewelry. I have a bracelet, I have a pendulum, I have a crystal grid that I put together, and it's all Reiki imbued. I make sure that it's all Reiki charged before I send it to you. And if you wear your stones with you, the intentions of those stones are the stones are carefully chosen because the intentions of those stones match with all the things that I told you that Mercury retrograde affects. Lastly, you can also just use loose stones, and if you like essential oils, be sure to have some essential oils that can help you and aid you in communication, perception, higher connections, and all that stuff. That is also a good thing to do. You can also wear a diffuser bracelet or diffuser jewelry to just carry those oils with you as well, because I mean, we're talking about what I do, right? So I also do that. And the last thing that I love doing, and to me it's kind of the most important thing, is attitude of gratitude, because Mercury retrograde brings chaos. And if I am focused in gratitude instead of being focused on chaos, I mean, I'm doing all the other stuff as well, right? But I'm also focused in gratitude, I won't be as stressed if something happens. Like one of the things that happened to me insurance wise, that we had to pay $800 for something related to my daughter's allergy shots that wasn't clear with the place we were getting them insurance and coverage and all that stuff. So yeah, and it happened during Mercury retrograde, which is no surprise. But instead of just crying and being like, oh my God, I'm out of all that much money, I tried to just focus in gratitude and just say, well, thankfully, I had a way of paying it, or thankfully, I realized that before it went further. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Those are alarms that I have to usually get my daughter off the bus. Sorry about that one. Let me take the other one off, because if not, it's also gonna interrupt us a little bit. But yeah, don't be worried about my daughter. She's not going on the bus today, so we're good. She's, she's not in danger of being left at the bus stop all by herself. Okay, so kind of wrapping up. Yeah, just be sure to just also maintain an attitude of gratitude and be more connected spiritually. So whatever it is that you do spiritually, just enhance it. Just give it an umph, give it a little push, and that will always help you. Do energetic cleansing of areas of jewelry. You can watch my videos on that. There's other videos in my channel that help you with that. You can also subscribe to my channel so you can get more information. And one of the things that I have in mind is like kind of some rituals that you can do and how to set intentions when Mercury is retrograde. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do this sooner or not, but I don't know when you're watching this video. By the time you're watching it, it might be also in my channel. So just be sure to watch for all of that. You can always search for something in my channel. Like if you write Mercury, everything that's related to Mercury will pop up if you write in the little search bar inside my channel. And be sure to like this video if you like this information, and join my VIP list, my Facebook list, and leave me a comment if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer those for you. And thank you for joining me today. I hope this information was helpful. And you're going to have to live with Mercury retrograde quite possibly 6 months out of a year, because between pre-shadow, post-shadow, and the time it's retrograde, that's a whole month and a half to 2 months. So if it happens kind of like 3 times a year, you do the math. So we need to find ways to cope with this and not let it ruin our lives, and not just be scared about it. Just do something proactive to counteract it. Okay, thank you for joining me. Bye, guys.